And we're live! Hello all and welcome. How y'all doing today? Hope you're all doing good, fine, and well. I'm doing okay. So before I get to the news stories, I wanted to comment on how I started the last show. I was talking about a thought experiment I had come across where somebody was essentially thinking too much, essentially becoming far too abstract and detached from reality and determining such things as identity and what makes one themselves. I want to dial that back a little bit. I think maybe I was being a little too jaded in regards to what I first said on my last show in regards to that. I guess it's in part because I've just spent so many years studying this stuff, doing this stuff, applying philosophy realistically, practically, the kind of things that the person was talking about whose post I came across on social media that I was essentially mocking, making fun of, making light of. Well, I want to dial that back a little bit and say that there is some use to indulging in performing such abstract thought experiments for those who are new to philosophy and maybe lacking in self-knowledge and haven't really explored these subjects fully. I'm somebody, I mean, that was something I was, looking into like 35, 40 years ago, these kind of questions. So, yeah. So I think I was being a little too jaded, maybe even a little elitist, in a sense, making light of that, and acting as if there was absolutely positively no use in meandering through such subjects that, while very abstract and almost completely detached from reality in the sense that, not going to be able to make another person a perfect copy of you and thereby explore this question in reality objectively, it can still help you better understand what makes you you, what makes identity, what creates one's identity, where does one's identity come from. And these are important questions, and I guess I was being a little jaded and somewhat elitist in how I was talking about that. Again, these are things that I've explored ad infinitum and, don't really need to do so anymore, nor do I. I don't see the use for me. I'm not lacking in self-awareness at all. But again, I tend to forget that a lot of people out there are students. A lot of people out there are new to philosophy, philosophical thought, applying philosophy. So, yeah. So I'll dial that back a bit and say that such thought experiments can have use. Anyway, enough of that. So I just wanted to address that, and okay. And if you didn't watch the last show, it means nothing to you. Anyway, let's jump into the news. So as you know, I explore a lot of crazy shit. If it's not a kooky story, of course, it seems like half the stories these days are so kooky, right? Generally speaking, on this show, I explore the stuff from like 1 to 5 or 6 craziness, and then the stuff that's like uber crazy. Like 7 and up, 7 to 10, I tend to discuss on a special show I call Crazy Shit. Because that stuff's just too crazy. Right? It's kind of hard to mix it with the moderately to low level crazy stuff, which I'll be discussing today. All right, so let's start out with a story I came across and I thought it was interesting. Of course, that's all I discuss. I'm not going to discuss stuff I don't find interesting. Female only tax service plans blocked by Glasgow City Council for being sexist. I love it. Of course, this is that female privilege that doesn't exist, right? Because, patriarchy, which is all about male privilege, I don't see that anywhere. I don't see men having their own male-only taxi service, which would be very nice, by the way. Well, no, wait. I think most male taxi drivers would prefer not to have to drive dudes around as well. Drunken bums who might start fistfights with them. Of course, then again, drunken broads could be more problems. Yeah. Drunken broads could cause a lot more problems anyway. Remember that tape of that Uber? This isn't that much of an aside, really, since it's about, taxi drivers and such, which is essentially what Uber drivers are. Remember that little 5 foot tall or 5'3" or whatever hot little package Indian or whatever she was that was a doctor. Great ass. Whew. Wearing these tight little short shorts. And 30-year-old. She was really hot, actually. Right there at the edge of the wall, but still, not bad. And she just trashed the Uber guy's car. Just trashed the Uber guy's car. Geez, you're not safe with men or women. Oh my! Could it be that the sexes are equally or can be equally dangerous? No! Oh boy. This woman if this woman was to get this business started, well, yeah, I guess it would be okay, because without the male Uber driver for the female passenger to accuse of false rape accusations or some kind of Me Too or some bullshit, the women would probably be okay, unless they accuse the driver of being a lesbian or something. But anyway, female on female, the man is not at a disadvantage if there's no man, right? So I guess it'd be okay, women driving women around, I guess. I don't know. Seems like women hate each other to me, so. But anyway, the app was designed to make women passengers feel safe, but it has been rejected for excluding men. Make female passengers feel safe? Say what? There are very rare cases of some dude driving a taxi abducting a woman. It's almost unheard of. Meanwhile, I'm always seeing these videotapes. And by the way, these Uber drivers, these poor guys, it's a total loss, by the way. If you're an Uber driver, you won't make any money. From what I understand, once you essentially pay for upkeep, maintenance, gas, insurance, and everything else, you've made nothing. It's like I broke even. I'm in business to break even! Yeah, okay, that's a really bad business. Meanwhile, Uber makes a bundle. While you're paying for all the upkeep of these vehicles, they're making a fortune off you. Oh, boy. But, yeah, the only thing I see are these Uber tapes, these poor guys who are having to invest in these internal security cameras for their cars. I see these guys getting attacked by these broads, having drinks thrown on them, having bottles of urine thrown on them. And by the way, how's that woman getting that piss into that bottle? It's not like she has a cock or anything. What does she have to stick it up in there into the, I don't know. She got some good aim. But yeah, the only time I see anybody getting abused is the male drivers. Ah, boy. Anyway, the app was designed to make female passengers feel safe by launching a woman-only service. A proposal by Margot Welsh to start Rosie and Pink cars offering female drivers to female passengers and their children. Oh, and their children. Okay, so children are okay. And what about boys? Are male children okay? Was dismissed yesterday by licensing chiefs at Glasgow City Council. This is great. It is great. Women are not allowed to discriminate. They must hate it. But we only wanted those discrimination laws passed so that we could get into male spaces and ride their coattails and get them to mentor us, and we could get some kind of equality, false equality, and get into their spaces so we can benefit. We still want to be able to discriminate. You can't have it both ways, bitches. Walsh was prompted to launch the service after seeing the amount of sex attacks in this day and age. But counselors branded the plan as sexist. What amount of sex attacks? Aren't the majority of these sex attacks in Britain, the UK, being carried out by Muslims who are having sex emergencies? Like that one guy that raped some 10-year-old kid in a pool. I hadn't had sex in 3 months. It was an emergency. And I'm a low IQ moron who can't defer gratification, so I had to rape the boy. We'll give you 3 weeks community service. Hey, that Jussie Smollett guy only got 2 days of community service. Okay, 2 days. 1 day. Oh, boy. This is great. Welsh slammed the decision, them denying her a license. There's definitely a need for this. I don't get it. I don't see too many taxi drivers raping and killing their female passengers. I mean, isn't that bad for business? And don't most of these cabs have cameras? And especially if it's a professional taxi service and it's not like your own private car like an Uber, you don't even have control of or access to the videotape. So I don't get it. Where's the threat? There's definitely a need for this. Loads of taxi companies are predominantly male. Well, yeah, that's because the majority of the time, the people getting attacked are the driver and not the passenger by the driver. So Women don't want to do it because it's freaking dangerous. Oh, so you want to start a company that'll only hire women? It's very interesting. Very interesting. So if you're a man that has a company, affirmative action, you must hire women. If you're a woman that has a company, you can discriminate against men and you don't have to hire them. And you don't have to service them either. Huh. Double dipping when it comes to discrimination. No male customers, no male employees. Yeah, but there's no female privilege? Really? Oh, yeah, the app was deemed to be sexist. I spoke to my family who said, do you want to be driving men around at night? I wanted to be taking grannies to bingo and kids to school rather than a stag party. Do they call those stag parties anymore? Does anybody have stag parties? Let me tell you what a stag party is and how that's different from a bachelor party. Now, back in the 50s and the 60s, porn was largely unavailable, okay? You could buy fucking Playboy, and I don't know when Penthouse came along, but there were they were called stag magazines, okay? So back then, porn was called stag, okay? And essentially, what a stag party would be was 9mm film of porn. It was very rare to be able to get your hands on this and show it. So you would show stag films, porn films, right? And sit around and drink booze and laugh it up. I mean, the guys wouldn't generally sit around and have a fucking circle jerk or anything. They would just laugh and shit, and then, they might get their juices flowing with some porn, and then they might hire a, stripper. But not really. Usually a stag party just involved porn. Anyway, yeah. All right, let's continue. Yeah, she would like to just be able to drive grannies and kids. Yeah, I would like to be able to not have to work, but still make money. We don't always get what we would like, do we? I do if I'm a woman. Not anymore, bitches. Counselor Robert Connolly said it's essentially sexism towards males. It doesn't sit right with me. But Welsh said, to say men are being discriminated against, I just don't feel that. What? Do you mean they're not currently being discriminated against, or that your plan to offer no services to men and to only hire men is not discriminatory? Because those are two different things. Of course, she doesn't make any delineation. It doesn't let us know what she's talking about. Hello, honey, what you're trying to do is the definition of discrimination. Of course, she's clueless now, right? I don't know what you're talking about, Your Honor. That doesn't seem discriminatory to me. I've spoken to beauticians, women in supermarkets, even firemen. One said if his daughter is going to a nightclub, he'd rather it was a female driver. Yeah. Because people working as Uber drivers, if some broad disappears between her house and a nightclub, and the last person to be seen with her was the Uber driver, he's going to be the first suspect. I mean, what the hell? How often does this really happen? I think I've heard like one instance in like 40 years where a fucking taxi driver or something abducted and killed some broad. It's super rare because you're going to be the first suspect. And again, if it's a fucking actual taxi company, you don't have access to that security footage. Yeah, sure, I'm going to rape and kill this broad in a company taxi that has cameras in it, and I have no access to the footage, and I'm on film doing it. Yeah, a lot of taxi drivers are going to do that. Get the fuck out of here, you paranoid bitches. Oh, boy, Margot Welsh slammed the council's decision. Yeah, how dare you don't give me what I want to reject her rosy and pink taxi app. By the way, I think everybody should be allowed to discriminate as much as they want. You don't want to bake a cake for some gay people? Fine. You don't want to bake a cake for some Muslims? Fine. You're free to do what you want, and the public is free to not come into your establishment and buy cakes as a form of protest, and you go out of business. If people give so much of a damn. Oh, but no. In today's day and age, social justice means you make the government impose your will on people. Yeah. Doesn't sound much like social justice to me, but hey. Welsh was told driver conditions mean no passenger should be refused a journey apart from particular circumstances. These include if the passenger's drunk or otherwise not in a fit and proper condition to be carried. That's weird. How the hell could a drunkard? I mean, that's about the only thing a drunkard is good for, is sitting there. How can you not be in a position to travel when you're just sitting there? Well, the only thing you can do when you're drunk is sit down, and you're sitting down in a taxi, but you're not in proper condition to be carried somewhere in a taxi, and you're not the one driving. That's weird. That's very odd. How could you? I would think that you're in the most fit condition if you're fucking drunk and you're wasted. You're wasted. You're out of your fucking mind. You stumble bumming around. You can't walk. That's when you need a taxi. Oh, you're not in the right condition to take a taxi. I'm not the one driving, bitch. It's so strange. The driver conditions also cite passengers who refuse to cease smoking in a private hire car or are accompanied by any animal which is likely to damage or soil the interior of the private hire car as reasons to refuse a journey. What if it's a guide dog? What if you're like blind? I don't think you can refuse the journey, even if the dog's taking a dump right there before it gets in the fucking car. And when it sits down in the back, you're going to have shit from its asshole all over your fucking carpets. I don't think you can deny that journey. Anyway, she was also asked why the age restriction for male children using the service should be 11. Because once they hit 12, the hormones start popping off and they become toxically male. Wells responded, there had to be a cutoff point. I've got a son, and when they get to high school age, they could be boisterous. It was for the safety of the drivers. Toxic masculinity. Their testosterone really gets going, and now they can get hard-ons. So they're a threat to the driver. Driveress. They're going to call them driver S's. Will said she won't be giving up her plan just yet, despite the intimidating encounter. She said, I felt they were laughing, that my idea was ludicrous. That's because you're paranoid. Her lawyer disagreed that the app would breach driver conditions and slammed counselors as hostile and dismissive. It's discriminatory. The UK is PC Central. You can't as women pass all these anti-discrimination laws and then you yourselves discriminate. You can't do that. I know you want to have your cake and eat it too, ladies. You want to be able to get into male spaces, but keep men out of your spaces. But you don't get to have it both ways. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Among other issues, the committee was also not satisfied by the explanations from the applicant and their representative about how the service would be managed to avoid it being considered discriminatory. Yeah, how can it not be? I mean... And don't get me wrong, again, I think you should be able to discriminate against whoever you want. You don't want to have Ted Bundy over for lunch. You want to discriminate against serial killers and child rapists? Be my guest. You have every right to discriminate in every way, shape, and form you want. You don't like people with brown hair? Don't have brown hair people into your home. You don't want to associate with gingers? Okay, no people with red hair. I don't see the problem here. Boy, freedom is about doing whatever the hell you want so long as it doesn't harm anybody else. And at the same time, being able to do whatever the hell you want with your fucking property and other people not being able to say, well, you not sharing your shit with me or letting me have access to whatever goods and services you offer, that harms me. My property, it's my shit. Me being able to do what I want with my shit trumps your feelings, bitch. Oh, no, it doesn't now. Can't discriminate. All right, let's move on. All right. This next story is interesting, and it's nice to see a man taking a stand. Male student takes stand against toxic masculinity narrative. Oh, boy. He's going to fail. I see all F's in his future. Okay. Jermel McLeod is a man, and he's not going to apologize for it. Okay? The San Diego of course. State University freshman and budding philosopher. Oh no, I'm a philosopher, pal. I'm going to have to pay extra careful attention to everything you say and pick it apart with fine Very, very fine tweezers in a microscope. Recently took to the pages of the campus newspaper, the Daily Aztec, and let the world know what he thinks of the term toxic masculinity and those who wield it. Toxic masculinity doesn't exist, he wrote in his op-ed. Traits that one person considers toxic may not be toxic to another person. The entire phrase is based on a subjective scale with absolutely no objective ground and is used as a shaming tactic for modern feminists. You mean by modern feminists and anybody else buying into their horrible rhetoric. For example, one person may like the typical alpha male. McLeod wrote, confident, loud, powerful, buff, etc. I don't know about loud. I think confident applies. Powerful doesn't have to be buff. Okay? Don't need to be buff and built to be alpha. Okay? It's a state of mind more than anything else and just not giving a fuck and being secure and confident who you are and not needing validation from others. And the loud, I don't see that being a necessity. But again, though, he's in college. He's around a bunch of guys who seem like alpha males, and they're all very loud and boisterous as they suck down lots of fucking beer. So, okay, I can see where he might get that idea. But another person may find those traits unlikable, and so they'll brand that male as toxic because toxic masculinity is a catch-all term for any traits a man has that are considered unlikable or overly masculine. Yeah, I agree. The problem is, by shaming men on a completely subjective scale, you intimidate, which is exactly what the left and most feminists want. They want to intimidate the men that go against the grain and reject the weak and feminized version of men you see portrayed everywhere. I believe there are toxic people, but to make an entire term for men and to keep cramming it down the throats of men is biased, bigoted, and a result of brainwashing. Some of this don't make sense. Most feminists, they want to intimidate the men that go against the grain and reject the weak and feminized version of men you see portrayed everywhere. No, it seems like they want men to be... Okay, maybe there's a mistake here in his typing. Feminists want men to become more feminized and weak, even though deep down, when they actually get with such a man, they will resent him and reject him at that point. Maybe that's what he's talking about at a deeper fundamental level. Anyway, a toxic person can be defined as somebody that is poisonous to you or society. Right? Toxic people can be any gender, male, female, or non-binary. Uh-oh. He's using leftist terms. I'm concerned. So why do we have an entire term for men? Because society's become gynocentric and matriarchal in nature, and women are running things, not men. And they don't just want to run things, they want to take over. And they just want ever more power. Okay? And they've been weaponized by the left and by the global elites to destroy men as much as possible, to make them as weak and subservient as possible. That's why the shaming tactics never end. We have so many people talking about toxic masculinity, but so few talking about toxic femininity. Amen to that, brother. Toxic femininity. You have women talking about how, feminists, and some of the dopey male feminists who want to get some poon, talking about how people are all a blank slate. We're all the same. There's nothing fundamentally different about any of us. So if there's such a thing as toxic masculinity, isn't there such a thing as toxic femininity? No! Because all the shit that's centered around what makes a man and what makes a woman is all stereotypical in a social construct, and the social constructs themselves are not necessarily equal, so they are different. They're different in that way. But at the fundamental level, we're not different in any way, shape, or form. I see. Well, if that's the case, and if there ever was actually a patriarchy, or if there still is, as you claim there is, why would men give themselves the short end of the stick? Why would they choose something that's harmful and dangerous to them and society? Why would they create this social construct, this stereotypical male, and all these traits that go along with being male? Why would they adopt all of these traits if they're harmful to them and others? If it's all about male privilege, and we're supposedly the ones that are privileged, and that would mean we're the ones creating all the narratives, creating all the stereotypes, why would we create this stereotypical male persona for ourselves that's harmful to everybody? and most harmful to us. I don't get it. And at the same time, give women all the traits that are best and in no way toxic. It doesn't make any sense. When you're in a privileged position, you do everything to benefit as much as humanly possible. I don't get this. How does taking on a toxic persona and toxic traits and making them part of what it means to be a man, how does that help us? How does that benefit men? It makes no sense. Anyway, McLeod, in an interview this week with the College Fix, said he has no regrets about talking on the controversial topic. I argue that it doesn't really exist, he said in an interview, because it's used so much that the term no longer has any objective meaning. It never had any. You saying that, okay, implies that it existed in the first place, or that it does actually exist, but the meaning has been taken away by it being talked about so much. It never existed, son. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's total, utter bullshit. It's literally just something that's used for the sake of shaming. So that's why I think it doesn't really exist. You just said it. See, you got a long way to go to earn your philosophical chops, young man. You just said it existed, and now you're saying it doesn't. If you say it's used so much that the term no longer has objective meaning, that's you saying that it did at one time have objective meaning, and now you're saying it doesn't exist. I hope he's not a philosophy student. Because if he's a philosophy student, he's going to come out of college way dumber than he is now. It's been stretched out so much that it's gone. His byline discussing male behavior and characteristics has been featured on the Good Men Project website with headlines such as Free Will, How Men Can Steer Clear of Society's Outdated Expectations, and Lessons from a Man on the Road. You're not a man yet, son, I'm sorry. How can a man live life without worrying about what someone else thinks of him? It's easy. Don't give a fuck. It's not that difficult, pal. All right? His musings are also published on Medium. As for his decision to breach toxic masculinity in the pages of the Daily Aztec, never heard of it, it was a buildup of things, he told the Fix. It was a mixture of the leftist pressure on campus, he said. It was a mixture of the fact that the APA is pretty much saying that anything that is not feminine is toxic. Yeah. McLeod was referring to a decision earlier this year by the American Psychological Association to offer guidelines calling traditional masculinity harmful. I've been saying for years and years that psychology is bunk. It's nothing more than a fucking pseudoscience. It's right about a third of the fucking time when predicting outcomes. That's not a science. It's barely a pseudoscience, okay? It doesn't have very much predictive power. And most importantly, he added, it was the fact that any man who goes against the grain is shamed for doing so. So they lose their sense of individuality and they're forced to succumb to the nonsense that the left is putting out. Look, okay, I'm going to have to, what he's saying here is very vague. I get what he's trying to say to a certain extent, but he's being very vague and very generalized. He's not really saying much here that has any meaning. First of all, individuality isn't all it's cracked up to be, okay? You should be an individual, and you should have a strong sense of self. And that comes from having a mother and a father who raise you right and, let you find your own way, encourage you in your interests, and essentially they let you grow and they encourage this and they do a good job, right? They don't spoil you. At the same time, they don't give too much discipline. Find a happy medium. Encourage you in your life. Act as protectors and, shepherd you into adulthood. And hopefully, by that point, you'll have a strong sense of self. But beyond that, radical individuality, which is this sense that collectives of all kinds are bad, well, that's an idea of the left, okay? That the left pushes on the right to stop them from collectivizing, while at the same time the left collectivizes. Collectives aren't all bad, okay? You can have collectives of individuals, by the way. Individuals with a strong sense of individuality can come together to combat a common enemy, to champion a specific cause. Their collectivization comes under the banner of the umbrella of that specific cause. It doesn't make them a collective or collectivist who essentially identify a sense of self by their belonging to a collective. there's different types of collectives, and I think people don't really explore this subject enough. They misunderstand what the idea of a collective is, and they associate it with socialism and leftism and losing your sense of identity and self, and that's not always true. Not always true. Anyway, McLeod will not be shamed even in the face of backlash. He said his column prompted an angry letter to the editor and more. There was obviously that whole letter to the editor, which was a response. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Some boring shit here. McLeod said people called him negative names. Negative names. I bet they did. And compared him to Vice President Mike Pence. So what? What's wrong with that? Wait. Is this about that comment Pence made that he didn't want to spend time alone with a woman who wasn't his wife because it could get him in trouble? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I don't see a problem with that. Another wrote that his work would be in a manifesto for a school shooter. That makes no sense. That's not an argument. It's just an insult. And, if that's the first thing you say, you have no arguments. I don't even have to pay attention to what you say. But on the flip side, there was actually more positives than negatives. A lot of people told him, finally, somebody said it. A lot of kids were surprised that somebody was willing to actually say it. I found out that mostly, even if they didn't like what I had to say, they still liked that I said it anyway. Okay. Asked why he thinks masculinity is under attack. He said it's an attack on individualism. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't agree with that. Masculinity is under attack because masculinity is what makes people defend themselves, okay? Masculinity is... Now, of course, I think perhaps what he's trying to say is... I don't know what he's trying to say. I don't agree with that blanket statement he just made. I don't believe it's necessarily an attack on individuality. I think it is to weaken men, to make them less willing and less able to defend their mother country and their fellow citizens, and thereby wonderful global utopian socialism can commence. Anyway, masculinity is the application of 4 traits, he says: courage, mastery, honor, and strength. It's under attack because all those things are inherently individualistic. Okay. And they go against a lot of what is being preached nowadays. He's making a lot of absolute statements here that I don't necessarily agree with. And he's not really going into much detail and trying to explain himself. He's just making a lot of grand sweeping statements that I don't necessarily agree with. And his approach and his proclamations don't show very much strength, philosophically speaking, in regards to the underpinnings of his claims. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that now. That would require a whole nother video. It goes, okay, it's all under attack because all these things are inherently individualistic, and they go against a lot of what is being preached nowadays, which is fearfulness, sensitiveness, timidity, and it's the exact opposite of what's being pushed right now. And he's pushing back, even in class. The teachers usually just nod in silence. The students kind of raise their eyebrows and look at me weird. At the end of the day, it's a broken narrative because it's a misunderstanding of what masculinity is, McLeod said. Nowadays, masculinity seems to be mixed with sexual assault on campus, so most people immediately assume that masculinity is the cause of all these rapes and whatnot. Yeah, correlation does not equal causation. Even though it's not, it's a misunderstanding of masculinity that caused all of these issues. Well, the misunderstanding comes from a narrative that comes directly from the global elites, from the half-baked intellectuals that came out of the 60s and 70s, all of these, fucking professors that came out of the hippie days, and they're all a bunch of socialist scumbags who think that Marx was a genius, and they push the idea of cultural Marxism and the oppressor versus oppressed, and that's really all feminism is. And, of course, you need an oppressor, and who's the oppressor? Well, the evil white male. Yeah. So identify everything about the male that is masculine, that, that's got to be it. That's got to be it. The very nature of what a man is what is evil. Yes, and that's his masculinity. And that has to be destroyed, because without that, well, he can't really fight back against us very effectively now, can he? So everything just stems from this misunderstanding of what makes a man, and what masculinity is. I disagree with a lot of the specific points he tried to make, referencing certain character traits as this or that, inherently bound to individualism or what have you. And he's wrong on a number of points here, but I applaud his message, or he's just making too many absolute claims, absolute statements, and not getting into enough finer detail. But those are small points in my mind compared to what he's actually arguing. Although his arguments would make a lot more sense if he was on the money about what he's talking about especially in regards to why this is happening. It's not an attack on individualism. Trust me. They want you to be more of an individual. They want you to be radically individualistic so that you will not in any way, shape, or form collectivize, okay? You ever heard of divide and conquer? It's a very, very old tactic. Divide your enemies, they're easy to conquer. Million men against a million men, odds are pretty even depending on the individual skills of those people in that group of a million and how well they work together to coordinate their efforts. Now, if you take those same men and you put them 100 feet apart along a line, still a million of them, but now they're standing more or less alone, and the other force is nice and congealed and conglomerated, and they attack the one man, and there's a million of them. The one man is going to fall, and down the domino line you go until all 1 million of those men are dead because they stood alone as radical individuals. Okay? So individualism and radical individualism, what this kid seems to be talking about to a certain extent, is dangerous. Because if you push radical individualism to the point where you reject any type of collectivization coming together to fight a common foe, for example, guess what happens? You're unable to fight. Because the left, they've got no problem coming together and collectivizing. Well, what about that? What was that? Anybody out there seen that footage in Portland of Antifa? They've got that radical, leftist, communist mayor who got himself elected, and he might be Antifa himself, and he essentially just commands the cops to stand down. Remember that video where he had all these fat, ugly, stupid, leftist, male feminist pinheads directing traffic for no reason whatsoever? You gotta remember that one fat lady is telling this guy to go right, and he's like, why? And she's like, because I shit show. He's like, what? And then some guy comes over and starts calling this poor 70-year-old man an evil white male and kicking his car and shit. And then he tells him, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And he tries to go his own way, and they chase his car and start kicking it and shit. Nobody did anything. I was sitting there watching that tape, and I was like, what's going on here? This is not the America I know. The America I know, everybody standing on those street corners would have just flown to that one point, that car, and protected that old man and beat the shit out of these radical leftist nut jobs. And protected that old man. But nobody did anything. Everybody just stood there terrified, alone, divided, unable to come together in any way, shape, or form, in any collective manner to fight their enemy. That's the problem. Radical individualism. At the same time, the left pushes radical collectivism to stand in for an actual sense of identity, of self, for those on the left. It at the same time pushes radical individualism on the right, on those who are inherently more collectivist and individualistic in nature. Well, it just pushes this radical individualism on them to further radicalize them along the lines that they were already naturally inclined to follow to begin with. So those who are radical individuals, who are individuals, become more radicalized along lines of individualism, and they become ever less able to fight back in any real meaningful way because they can't come together. They can't come together. The most they can do is be some kind of talking head on a YouTube video. And I'm not a radical individual, okay? Believe me. I understand the necessity of collectivization at times, depending on what you're collectivizing around and for what purpose. But yeah, you see like that, what's his name? Sargon dude who's running for office in UK. I mean, he goes out to try and talk to people. He has a hard time finding people to help him, essentially, and to collectivize around him, and who essentially will speak up for the values that he's representing and saying that he will push for as a UKIP representative, as a UK representative. And the majority of the people who are causing problems and have the loudest voices are the ones that have embraced a collectivist ideal. For the wrong reasons, but it gives them much more strength, much more power. The people that can come together and collectivize for whatever cause they might be fighting for, they're going to be the ones to win. And that's one of the reasons why the left has been so effective to date. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? All right, into some more craziness. Oh, man. One sec. Goddamn allergies. All right, maybe I better pour myself another cup of coffee before I move on here. I've got the cotton mouth from a very strong cup of coffee, but I need the stimulant. This shit just gets ever more crazy. All right. Okay, there we go. Slow process because I don't want to burn the shit out of myself. All right. Transracialism. It's not the new transgender. Why race and gender are not synonymous. I agree, they're not the same thing. Good. Wow, me and a radical leftist agree on something. Of course, you know, when they say race and gender are not synonymous, they're talking about in a different sense than the biological sense that I'm talking about. All right, so back in 2015, Rachel Dolezal, I used to talk about this broad a lot. This nutty broad, that was raised. She's like the most lily white broad you've ever seen. Raised white, raised Christian. I mean, you've never seen anybody more white, right? And she tried to turn herself black. She put on all that fake tan and kinked her hair out and became the president of a chapter of the NAACP or something. She got booted out once they found out she was the wrong skin color, though. But they're not racist. We don't want white people champion us. Okay. Rachel Dolezal, a fully Caucasian woman who had been pretending to be black for years, came out publicly as transracial. Well, she didn't come out. She got caught. Her parents wanted to get back at her. Those are some great parents there, huh? Let's ruin our daughter's chosen life. Yeah, and expose her on TV. They even did TV interviews and shit. Trying to get back at her for whatever imagined slight I felt that she had inflicted upon them. I wonder what the source of her race angst might be. Could it be these horrible parents that are trying to throw her to the wolves? No, couldn't be. With a completely straight face, the woman who had grown up with blonde hair, white skin, and freckles said to the Today host, I identify as a black woman. Excuse me, a black wayman. Since the scandal, a whole host of other transracial people have been coming out of the woodwork. Oh boy. In 2017, a white German model, Martina Adam, claimed to have transitioned to become a black woman after undergoing a chemical tanning procedure. You think that's what Michael Jackson had to turn white? I know he claimed to have that skin condition that caused white blotches all over you, so he just said, fuck it, I'll go full white. Is that permanent, though? I mean, you can bleach your skin permanently? Fuck. Become like an albino, like in that movie Powder, with that poor kid who was a fucking albino, and then he turned into energy at the end. It wasn't a very good movie. But anyway, chemical tanning procedure. I've never heard of this. Huh. I remember that one movie, Soul Man. It was back in the 80s. Apparently there's a pill you can take that will temporarily turn you black. And this kid wanted to get into medical school. So he started taking this black pill and he turned black. And it got him into medical school and he started having a romance with some mulatto girl. Funny movie. It couldn't be made now, of course, because, you know, it's too PC. You might want to check that out. It's hilarious. I'm a so bad. They kicked his hair up and everything. He was the worst looking black man you ever seen, though. His facial features were so white. No way. He couldn't pull it off. But that's why it was so funny. Anyway, she wrote, I love my new ebony look very much. Where's the white privilege here? If there was so much privilege in being white, why aren't half the black people bleaching their skin like Michael Jackson did? Huh? Therefore, I'm currently testing various things to emphasize my exotic look. Oh, I see. You want to be different, right? You want to be exotic. Oh, you need to get some self-esteem, bitch. Oh, too many people have no sense of identity, so they have to essentially, well, I have no sense of identity, so I need something to identify with. Well, I'm just going to identify with my race. Just like these vegans. These vegans, they don't know who they are. They have no sense of self, no sense of identity. So, they essentially fill all those eternal gaps where, character and beliefs and an actual personality would be with an ideology. Yeah, let's run around. Let's join PETA and run around and blow up laboratories for oppressing animals. Yeah, that's your new identity, huh? Great. And of course, this all comes from these single-parent households. No parents, no input from your parents, no values, no virtues being taught, no examples by your parents to teach you good, right behavior and to develop a good sense of self and morality and character. None of that. My transformation to a black woman continues. Transformation. Hey, God, I already bought beautiful, long, black, natural hair with afro curls. Natural hair? You bought hair, and you're using the word natural to describe it. Okay. Soon I let my blonde hair color change into black, and I got African curls in my hair. Then comes the hair extensions with African natural hair. I never understood this shit about the hair extensions that black people get and wearing wigs made of other people's hair. That's gross. Who the fuck would want to walk around with somebody else's hair on their head? You do know that hair grew out of a head, of the inside of their fucking head. It comes from the inside of somebody else. I wouldn't want to wear that. Oh my God. It's so bizarre. Meanwhile, in Florida, a white man changed his name from Adam to Jadu and said he wanted to transition to becoming Filipino because whenever I'm around Filipino music and around the food, I feel like I'm in my own skin. Okay. He even ditched his car in favor of a tuk-tuk. What the fuck is that? Maybe somebody can tell me in the comment section what a tuk-tuk is. I'm not going to go into Google or Yahoo right now and look it up. A transracialism support group on Facebook and created a transracialism support group. In November 2018, it emerged that a white artistic director, Anthony Ikundaya Lennon, had been benefiting for years from an Arts Council England fund that was specifically dedicated to artists of color. I have color. I'm white. His response? He described himself as an African born again, claiming that although I'm white with white parents, I have gone through the struggles of a black man, a black actor. He decided to ditch his birth name, opting to go by his birth name was Anthony David Lennon, and he chose the name Taharka Ikundayo. Woo! This is some funny shit. This whole transracial idea is hilarious. I love it. Of course, it's the exact same thing as trans, transgender. It's the same thing. They've appropriated the word transracial. Yeah, because lots of people were using that before, right? It's been appropriated, huh? Appropriated. You can't appropriate a word. Get the fuck out of here. Rachel Dolezal brought the word transracial into the mainstream, however, and neglected to mention its true definition. Oh, why don't you tell us, oh lefty writer? Transracial is originally an academic term that refers to the act of adopting a child of one race or ethnic group and placing them into a family of a different race or ethnic group. Well, you lefties change the meaning of words all the fucking time, and you think that you can change to another gender. You've got an issue now with somebody co-opting a word and using it for a different purpose? I love it. Do as I say, not as I do. Oh, boy. Transracial was a term that embodied children who were stuck in between two identities. It speaks to the millions of children who are denied an intimate knowledge of their birth cultures and are constantly Are you saying that culture is somehow linked to race? Are you saying that culture somehow comes from race or has something to do with race? You evil racist! You! It's all a social construct! You've been saying that for years! Now you're trying to claim that race and fucking culture are somehow linked? That culture somehow comes from race? Oh, now you're admitting there's such a thing as race and that it fucking affects culture. You're essentially saying here that there is a biological link between race and the resulting culture that comes from that race. I love how they inadvertently say things that are true and don't realize it. The very same things that they've been fighting against the idea of for years. That's hilarious. Oh, boy. Great. Rachel Dolezal, Martina Adam, Jadu, and Anthony Lennon have not been through this experience. Well, Rachel Dolezal was raised with six brothers and sisters that were all black and adopted, so I don't know about that. And of course, you know that has something to do with why she chose to be black. Those black kids, those black adopted kids got a lot more attention than her. And she saw all the attention that being black, she clearly identified the love and the attention and the validation that those kids got with love and affection. And then she came to the conclusion that somewhere deep down, or maybe not so deep down, that being black means you'll get more love and attention and validation. So I'm going to go with being black because, there's a lot of benefits, and there are. There's black privilege. Don't kid yourself. There's no white privilege. But there's black privilege. Otherwise, why would these people not be going white? And why would some white broad choose to be black if there was white privilege? Clearly because there isn't. Oh, goddamn allergies. Race and ethnicity is rooted in ancestry. You can't just pick and choose. Wait, what? Okay, we got some contradictions going on here. Hello? Contradiction red flags are going up everywhere. Let me get this straight. You believe that... this is just... this is crazy. Race and ethnicity are rooted in ancestry. You can't just pick and choose. I don't understand... It's great. They apparently think that you can. Let's just bring in all these people from third world countries who have different cultures, different ideas, different ways of viewing the world, and let's just implant them into the American culture, into the American country, and the magic dirt theory that there's no such thing as culture. Culture is just a construct. Well, they'll become Americans and adopt the American culture. Oh, but wait, America has no culture. We're a melting pot. No culture. But wait, I thought that culture was deeply rooted in race and ethnicity. Unless you're white. Oh, I see. It's white people that have no race or ethnicity. It's just everybody else. People of color. Their culture is rooted in race and ethnicity. But white people? No. So it's okay to invade their fucking countries and subvert their fucking countries. Because they don't have a culture to begin with, right? You pinheads. I love these special pleading arguments. Unlike gender, which is assigned to you at birth. Gender is assigned, huh? By who? The stork? What are you talking about? You got a cock, you're a man. If you got a pussy, you're a woman. That's it. Enough said. Your race or ethnicity is rooted in ancestry. This is fucking great. This is wonderful. I love how they're trying to flip this script and change the inherent reality at a fundamental level. Okay, so your gender, you don't have a gender when you're born, but you have a race and ethnicity. So biology applies to race and ethnicity, but it does not apply to gender because reasons. What? You can't inherit your gender. What? But you do inherit your race. What? You're talking about something that is inherently true in both cases, but for some reason you're trying to apply a special pleading argument to one because it doesn't fit your narrative, while saying that this argument applies to the other, but it doesn't apply to my special pleading argument about gender. No such thing as a gender being an inherent quality. What? Oh my God, this is such crazy stuff. I don't get how leftists don't see this as the same thing. Oh, that's right, they can't think. Right. They've just been taught it's not the same thing, so that's what they believe because that's what they've been taught. It's a religion, essentially. Okay, it's got its own dogma and everything. Lovely. The fact that these people believe that they can pick and choose parts of the ethnicity they want and later decide to revert to their whiteness. It is white privilege at its worst. That's great. Yeah, that's privilege, right? Wanting to be another race because there's so many privileges involved in being that race. But that's white privilege. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not privilege, of course, to get, like 260 extra points on your SAT that you didn't earn, or to get hired because you're black, which doesn't happen with white people. Sorry, I can't hire you. You're white. They have the option to decide when to carry the burdens and discrimination felt by other races, whilst also reaping the benefits by taking money from organizations created to empower and help black communities. Rachel and Anthony Lennon both benefited financially from their decision to go through adult life as a black person. That's great! They benefited! They're saying it! Privilege gives benefits. There's no benefits to being whitey. That's why they're pretending to be black. And that is just the epitome of white privilege. Are you listening? Oh, shit. Fucking mic. I hit the mic. All right. Are you listening to yourself, Pinhead? Who wrote this? They're pretending to be black because of all the privileges that have come with being black. That's real white privilege. Wanting to be another race because there's no privilege in being white. What? That makes no sense. Oh, but wait, that actually makes perfect sense. There's no privilege to being a white person. Unbelievable. What privilege are you talking about? I don't understand this. How is it privilege to be a white person and then pretend to be black? Are you saying that there's no consequences? Isn't that Rachel Dolezal right now being charged with tax evasion for evading taxes and shit? And by the way, what consequences are there supposed to be? She's mentally ill. She's a mentally ill person. I understand this. If a black person pretended to be white, what consequences do you think there should be then? Oh, none. They're an oppressed class. So let me get this straight. There have been tons of articles written trashing this Rachel Dolezal and these other people who are pretending to be black, and they're clearly nuts, okay? And they've been trashed ad infinitum. Meanwhile, Blackie pretended to be white, but they wouldn't. Show me the black person pretending to be white. I don't get this. If there was really white privilege, it wouldn't be a bunch of white people coming forward and pretending to be black. I don't understand this. Meanwhile, he's admitting there's all these extra benefits that they're gaining by being black that they wouldn't get if they're white, but somehow they have privilege. What a moron! Meanwhile, Jadu and Martina Adam have benefited financially from the publicity gained by coming out as transracial. Yeah, they benefited, you idiot. Not because they're white, but because they're pretending to be black. They literally robbed black people of the money they deserve. What, because they wrote a book and went on a talking head show and got an appearance fee that they would only get because they're white people pretending to be black? Because they're paying homage to Blackie, right? And they're complimenting Blackie. Look, I love black people. I love black people so much I'm a white man and I'm going to pretend to be black. That's how much I love you. Yeah, that's stealing money from real black people. Sure. Okay. Black isn't something you can just decide to be. You also can't decide to be a woman if you're a man, or vice versa. You can't turn around, put on some makeup, and perm your hair. This is great. Listen to this. This same argument applies to people pretending to be the opposite sex. You can't turn around, put on some makeup, perm your hair, and assume that you're now navigating the world as a black person. Take out the word black person for man or woman, and it's the same argument. Oh, they're not synonymous. Oh, fuck. This is hilarious. It's hilarious. The level of cognitive dissonance you would have to employ to hold all of these contradictory beliefs is just astonishing. It's astonishing. Number 3, they are insulting the transgender community. How many of these people are out there? And I don't believe this bullshit that they're like... now, what is it? Is it 0.4% of the population or 4%? It's not 4%. It's something like 0.4% of the population or something. I think I heard somebody say 4%. That's bullshit. That's fantasy. Give me a fucking break. They ain't all that many transgender people running around out there, okay? It's like maybe, it's less than 0.5%, okay? Of these degenerate freak loons running around, okay? Insulting them. Who cares? I'm insulting them. They're insulting me. They don't seem to give a fuck. They're insulting my sensibilities. The whole outlook that transracial identity is the same as transgender identity is frankly insulting to the trans community. No, it's insulting because it's true. It's true. I'm sorry. Gender, why do you believe that a biological truth is somehow not true? Meanwhile, another biological truth that's equally true, that's grounded in biology, is true. So, race is real, man, because I haven't been taught that it isn't yet. But once I am brainwashed into believing that, I'll believe that too. Bunch of brainwashed, sycophantic morons. Trans people don't choose to be trans. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Something like 90% of these people grow out, that are these trans kids, they grow out of it by the time they're 18, okay? Yeah, it's a choice. This is all choices. They're born that way. No evidence of that. There is no empirical evidence that these people are born that way. None. You can try to bring up all these leftist bullshit studies that you want that are not real studies, these fucking think tank group organizations, leftists that had to create their own fucking journals because mainstream medical journals and scientific journals wouldn't publish their crap. But that reminds me of all the fucking creationists. And they call their field of endeavor creation science. They tried to get all their bullshit, fake studies published in real scientific journals. Scientific journals wouldn't publish their crap, so they just created their own. They created their own journals. Hey, look, our science is in our journal. It's legit. Yeah, okay. Conflating these two identities. Wait. They're both identities? How am I conflating them, Matt? You just said they're two identities. That's fucking great. I guess he feels he doesn't need to throw in the caveat that, okay, one of them is grounded in biology and one is not, okay? I shouldn't have to say that in every sentence. You'll know. I've already established that that's what I believe. Yeah, but they're not identities. That's what you are. The man is the man and the Wayman is the Wayman. They're both identities, all right, in the sense that, they're both immutable. They are immutable. They cannot be muted. They cannot be changed. You cannot change something that is immutable. I am a man. I will always be a man. Doesn't matter what you do to me. I will still be a man. Same with a woman. She's going to be a woman. Same with a black man. He's still going to be a black man. You can fucking bleach his skin all you want. He's still going to be the same race. You can't change these things. Law of identity. Please, I wish people would study logic. By the way, this is why you've got all these leftists running around saying that logic and reason are evil white constructions and they're part of the evil male white patriarchy. White supremacy. Yeah, because they disprove your nonsense. They show the contradictions and the bullshit that you're trying to peddle. So you have to label them as evil and oppressive and part of white supremacy. Yeah. Conflating these two identities implies that you can choose to be trans. You can. I could go buy a wig, lose some weight. Of course, I could just walk around as a big, fat, ugly broad instead of a thin, ugly broad. I think I'd make an ugly broad either way. But I could dress up as a Wayman and claim to be a Wayman, and then I'd be a tranny. And equally, you can choose to be a different race. Wait, what? Wait, what? Conflating these two identities implies that you can choose to be trans, and equally you can choose to be a different race. I'm conflating them when I say that you can't choose to be either. Okay? Transitioning as a trans person is a violent, painful, long, and difficult process that can result in job loss, isolation, and rejection. Yeah, that tends to happen when you lose like 2 months of work because you're getting your cock chopped off. Because it's like 10 times more, 20 times more dudes becoming Wayman than the other way around. You can't compare the trans experience to some white people deciding to get a tan, a perm, changing their names to something more African. Sure you can. It's the same thing. Really. You're saying you're something you're not. That's it. You're pretending to be something you're not. These other things are irrelevant. It's more violent to be trans. It's more painful. It's a long and difficult process. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It doesn't negate the fact that you're not a Wayman if you're a man, and you cannot become a Wayman if you're a man, and going through any violent, painful, long, difficult process doesn't negate that fact. Spray tan or scalpel. That doesn't matter. You can try to create all these arbitrary requirements that somehow make a difference in that fact in your mind, but they really don't. There is a difference between transitioning into a new gender, which doesn't harm anyone else. Well, that's not really true now, is it? That's not really true. Because first of all, you got a bunch of these people doing these TV shows, right? What about that one with the kid that spent years on TV and then he got his cock chopped off and on TV and the show paid for it? And you're encouraging people to undergo dangerous, life-changing, possibly lethal surgery. Any surgery has the risk of mortality. It has the risk of morbidity. You could die. We're talking about a 12, 13-hour surgery here to aesthetically change your appearance, cut off your cock and invert it. It's very complex surgery, okay? Lots of things can go wrong. And so you're essentially encouraging other people through doing this to do the same thing. And then there's something like a overall 44% suicide rate among these people. And in fact, the suicide rate goes up after the surgery. I mean, yeah, it does affect other people. It does harm other people. And choosing to live a lie to the detriment of other people who form the oppressed group that you're so desperate to be a part of. Listen to this. He's essentially, whoever wrote this without knowing it is writing the why these people want to transition. To be part of that oppressed group, because in today's day and age, there is currency, there is benefit in being a member of an oppressed group as opposed to the oppressor group. The whole transracial concept embodies white supremacy. How did I call it? And the fact that white people can continue to steal from the oppressed, even by pretending to be a part of the community itself. Right, because these oppressed people are getting all these benefits, and white people are getting none of these benefits, and they're being treated like crap. And the real racism is being directed at white people. The real oppression is being directed at white people. They've said so themselves. Ergo, these people want to become black. And how dare these evil whiteys, who have benefited from all of these benefits, but they're not benefited anymore, because if they were benefiting, they wouldn't want to become black. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Oh, boy. I say keep doing it. I say keep fucking doing it. Trannies, go ahead. Till your heart's content. Till your heart's content. Until women can't compete with you anymore, I say go for it. I say pass laws. Yeah, pass laws protecting women that want to compete in female sports. Absolutely. You know what? If you're some wackadoo nut job out there that wants to become a Wayman, more power to you. Go do it. Go do it. Yeah, sure. Fight to get into the military so that you can get access to all that free medical care and get your transition surgery for free. Go for it. You're in the UK? Get the surgery for free because, of course, they have free public health care there, and you can even get breast implants if you want. On other people's dime. Sure, men. Become Wayman if you're that mentally unstable. And start taking away some of the benefits that those Waymen are getting. Ah, yes, use their own weapons against them. Start to steal some of the goodies that they think they've just appropriated for themselves by becoming Waymen. Hell, you can just choose to identify as a Wayman and get those same benefits. That's great. That's what you need to do, man. Start identifying as females and getting all the nice little benefits and goodies that the women get. Same for black. We need to push this transracial stuff and show people that there is no such thing as white privilege, but there's a hell of a lot of black and brown and Latino privilege out there. And we need to do it by encouraging as many whiteys as possible to become black and Latino, at least to pretend to be, and sucking off the teat of the system and getting as many of these goodies as we can to highlight the fact that white privilege is total and utter bullshit. Why in the hell would people who are somehow generationally privileged by tons of wealth and systematic privilege, why would these people who are benefiting so fucking much be putting on spray tan and kinking their fucking hair up and getting all kinky hair and hair extensions and pretending to be black and talking all fucking racial and shit like AOC tried to do? That one gathering she had with black people or whatever. She tried to take on a black, voice, ethnic voice. Why would people be doing this if there was actual white privilege? So I encourage you nutjobs out there who have no self-identity, you don't know who you are, you feel like, oh, everybody hates me as a white man. If you have this feeling that you want to join blacks, go join them. Become a black man. More power to you. We don't need you. If you're so weak and pathetic that you really, 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 really need to identify with a group other than the one that you actually belong to and are a part of, and you don't want to fight for that, go be black. Go be a Wayman. Make them so tired of this shit, of people coming in and stealing their shit like that female weightlifter that won 9 out of 9 titles. It stole, they later on took them away from her, but we need to pass laws so that doesn't happen. So that we can infiltrate female spaces, female workplaces, female competitions, female events. Do the same thing to them that they've been trying to do to us. Yeah. Use their own weapons against them. And then they'll have to discard them. Because if this starts to happen enough, they'll be losing more than they're gaining by their push for so-called equality. All right. That's it for this show. Hope you enjoyed. If you like, please consider subscribing to my channel and leave a comment down below in the comment section. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me specifically and that you would like me to address on the next show, please send me an email at admin@therealistphilosopher.com. It's up in the right-hand corner there. Also, if you'd like to donate, support my channel. I get no monetization from YouTube, and I could really use your help. I'm thinking about opening a second channel, opening up a second account, making even more content. So I need your help to be able to do that. So you can find the links below to my 2 Patreons. They essentially have 2 Patreons. I have 2 Patreons because there's 2 different ways that you can donate. I also just got a Subscribestar account after only waiting 4 fucking months for them to approve me. But I still have to work out the details with that. If you want to more quickly access my donations page, you can go to therealistphilosopher.com/donate. It's in the upper left-hand corner there. That's my website. Also, you can feel free to Skype me. My Skype is the Realist Philosopher, and you would use that if you want to be on the show in the future. And if you'd like to be on the show, please email me first or send me a Skype detailing why you'd like to be on the show and what you'd like to talk about. Also, you'll find all my social media at the bottom of the page there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, and Instagram. I'm especially active on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Magus Reason on Facebook and The Realist 1967 on Twitter. I guess that's about it. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a nice day, and take care.